Back to Godsgoldenacres. It might be 7:30 in the morning, but that sun is already incredibly bright. And I'm gonna do a quick garden tour. And we're starting over by the container garden. And as you can see, things are changing pretty quickly. Now, it's been a little droughty, so we're not getting as much rain. And the corn is struggling just a little bit. But overall, it really is doing very well. It's getting nice and tall and branching out nicely. The onions have gone almost wild, which is good. This cauliflower I think looks weird. I'm not actually sure what's up with that one. Or like this one, which I'm going to let go to seed, looks normal. I'm not going to get any broccoli because it's all going to end up going to seed. And then the sweet potatoes are loving the weather. Absolutely loving. These guys are not loving the weather, being in a container and it's hot and just dries out really quickly. Same with my rose over there, not loving this weather. Now, they have changed the forecast, so it sounds like we could end up seeing lower temperatures than originally predicted, but they also took all the rain out of the forecast. And I typically water with a tank in the back of my Toro. Toro's broken, so now we're bucketing it with a watering can and a wagon. But it works. And I mean, honestly, if things get really bad and we have no gas, that might be what we end up doing anyway. But we're definitely going to be praying for rain and cooler temperatures. The last time this happened and we saw weather this hot was the year we got married. And it ended up being a very wet July, a very hot June, and a very wet July, which I can deal with. Although July was still just as hot, which was unfortunate. Guys, don't play with the water. Yes, the bucket will be clean when we're done. I have to hit it full of compost, which the plants will like.
Oh, we're cleaning it right now.
Sort of.
But that.
Alright, now I'm over by the big garden and I've watered 2 varieties of tomatoes so far. So in the cages are my Abe Lincolns. This is a variety I actually bought for my dad, so I just have a few for myself. And they are doing wonderfully, getting nice and big, trying to escape. I'm a lazy pruner, so I'll prune for airflow, but if the airflow seems fine and they're doing good, I'd rather those suckers be on the plant and creating more fruit. I don't care how big the tomatoes are, although I might trim, especially this guy who's a little bit skinnier, quite a bit more than like this guy over here who's just thick. Right next to those are my Sheboygan paste. And they actually have quite a few fruits on some of the lower branches. So we've got a couple there, one starting there. So they're doing wonderfully also. And I'm actually surprised how well they're setting fruit, because I was like, I was sure they were just gonna even just drop those little ones. And like this guy has a couple big fruits, a little bit taller. All right, you need twist it around. So I'm just kind of twisting them through and up the trellis, kind of tying when needed. But they are really doing nicely, and I'm expecting we'll get a nice little harvest off of them. This heat, we're probably looking at a heavier fall harvest. You also be fighting blight and just natural into-season diseases a lot more. So unfortunately, we probably are going to have a lower yield of tomatoes. I do have a lot more tomatoes to plant. They're the ones that I took up to the farmer's market that didn't sell. Probably have like 40, 50, which is actually more than I have in the garden already. So those we plan on selling. They're beefsteaks. Not my favorite variety. They're kind of bland, which is why I picked these varieties to try. They're ones we've never done. But we are much more of a cooked tomato person, so like a paste tomato makes a lot of sense for us. In these next few panels, I have the Brandy wine tomatoes. My purples are doing pretty good. These are these first two plants, and then that back row over here. And we've got quite a bit of blooms. We've got some fruit starting, several blooms. I'm wondering if the heat's going to make them drop, but we'll see. And then over here, this plant actually has several beetle tomatoes, and it amazes me how they already, one, are so dark compared to the others, especially up on top, because these will be purple. They're a truly purple color. And then the shape is different because the others are kind of oblong. And those come out starting as very much a round shape. And like this guy, let's see, gently tuck him in and then bring him back. Just, these are very nice looking on the purple side. Now not all the plants have fruit. This little guy has fruit, although he's a little misshapen, and that guy doesn't. And then my yellows, which there was one here and we lost him, and none of my yellow is fruiting yet, which with everything else having multiple plants with fruit, I'm very surprised that, because yellow is the one I have the most of, that none of these have fruit on them yet. Granted, I could have missed one, but I don't see any. But they're getting tall. They're seemingly healthy. Like, let's see. Nope, that one popped off, but I barely touched him. So we're dropping flowers just because it's hot. So hopefully, because we already had one get lost due to, I'm assuming disease, but honestly we've had a deer in the garden, so it could have just been like the deer messed with it too much. I think this one has the most, granted, you know, that guy's coming off. We got blooms. If we've got blooms, we've got hope. So, more blooms up here starting. I'm sure that's just to the heat. We will see. But it is what it is, to a certain extent. Getting everybody a little bit of water. They're now giving notifications on the phones that we might get storms tonight. I don't expect much water from those, simply because it's a pop-up summer storm, and we had one come through last night, and literally me and my husband were checking the weather every 10 minutes because it was just changing so rapidly, and we're like, it finally gets to the point where like there's no way that can miss us. It's huge. It'll be about an hour of rain for this really skinny system. And then it broke up and went around us. And it's like, cool. That's awesome. Tomatoes, I have peppers. So this row, we have 5 green peppers. Over here, we have 2 sweet peppers. And if you've not noticed, I have marigolds thrown in a couple places. Not as many as I wanted. They didn't germinate. They were Dollar General seeds from last year on sale. So, And then I just now getting this to come up is okra. I did a few just to try. I like it fried. My husband doesn't like it at all. So just a few plants. Over here in the weedy mess, I have 2 cantaloupe plants that'll climb this trellis, and then a bunch of broccoli that I'm pretty sure is just gonna fail. I'm really tempted just to come back through and till this and put pumpkins out here, which I'm pretty sure is what's gonna happen. I'll put a couple much more arches, and I'm gonna put the Jackby little peekaboo pumpkins. And then here, and you can see I just kind of watered the corn really quickly. I was trying to hit what has already come up because I just planted this sweet corn. And there's one stake there. You can kind of see my stakes. And so this is the small sweet corn patch, just a little ways past. I'm used to a much bigger sweet corn patch. It's actually kind of sad that it's this little. But, and then these rows where these stakes are lined up are the Cherokee Trail-a-Tear beans from Baker Creek. It's these here, these 3. So I need to get trellising up for them. And then right here, which is just barely starting to come up and is hard to see, but I'll zoom in. Cucumbers. So they are a pickling cucumber. Over and get more water to water those spots. But right now I'm going to finish giving you guys a tour, and then I will head back that way. So sunflowers are coming up fairly nicely. And then I planted some more sunflowers, which I see 1, 2 came up. Oh, nope, there's another 3, 4. This row, I don't see any coming up, but it's been dry. Way of surprising you and coming up either weeks or a year later. Another weedy mess. There is more corn popping up and it's getting tall. So I'm like trying to slowly, you can kind of see, like I spent a few minutes over there getting around those little ones so they'll have more room and not have to fight the grass as much. But I'm trying to be really slow about it. That way I don't accidentally grab a corn when it's tiny. So it's about double what I thought there was, but still nowhere near the like 150 seeds that I planted. So we had really poor germination over here and the grass took over. But it's hard to tell the grass from the corn. So like this one. Like this right here is a good example. Like it's kind of hard to tell. I think it's corn, but if you can get to the bottom, the teller is in this area is how the roots look. So the corn will be round like this is, right? And then these others have a very flat root, and that's how I'm telling the difference when I'm going through and I'm like taking the time to try to weed around these little plants. So, and my butternut squash here is trying to push its way in, which is fine. It'll help provide ground cover for the corn. So butternut squashes, there's 3 plants here. They're scooching their way out. I'm trying to lead them away. I think I planted things close right here, and I originally planned on staking it, and then I ran out of stakes. I thought we had more T-posts than we did. There's an auction with T-posts this weekend, and we're pretty sure we're gonna go. So then over here are 4 zucchini plants. I have quite a few little baby zucchinis, so I'm actually really happy with that. I grabbed some really small because I'm not sure how I want to cook zucchini. It's not something me and my husband have liked. But as we try more veggies and different ways of cooking them, we really do find that honestly, our parents either boiled or steamed, and we don't like that. We really do like roasted veggies. And since discovering that, we're like, well, we'll take the risk. And if we don't like the zucchini, I go up to the farmer's market every week anyway. So it's pretty likely that I can then sell off those zucchini plants. I planted 3 more for succession, and I'll plant more as needed. Hello, butterfly. Thank you for coming and pollinating. So, but the plan is, and it won't take up this whole space. So the zucchini will basically just keep succession sowing and meet up with the tomatoes after I get the tomatoes that we didn't sell in. And then I have some pumpkins I still need to transplant, which will go that way or this way after I figure out how I'm dealing with the butternut squash that is scrawling across the ground. I haven't decided yet. Because I'll do, they're from my husband's aunt. They're 2 different varieties of a green pumpkin to take up to the farmer's market, a pie pumpkin, but I only have like 6 plants total of those. And then I've started seeds for the Jack Be Littles. I always want to sell Jack Be Littles at the farmer's market, and they want to sell peas for some reason. Not peas, excuse me, carrots. I'm walking over to the peas, so I'm like looking at them kind of, because that's where my brain is going to next. Here's what my peas look like. They've outgrown their trellising. And they're kind of holding on to each other, which works fairly well. Got a few pea pods. They're not mature yet for sure, but with the heat, I'm not sure. This is the first time growing peas. The kids like peas because my dad likes peas. Literally the only reason, I'm pretty sure. But we do have quite a few just now popping up, literally in this heat. Which, granted, June is a normal time for them to be harvested. So, they're doing okay. Ignore my weeds. It's a constant battle. Just this year, getting started after moving is always crazy. So, all of my strawberry plants used to look like that one. Now, they all look like this one. So we've had a rabbit in here. I'm gonna bring out some fishing twine. The crowns aren't hurt, and with these being an everbearing, I do expect them to make a decent recovery, but it might take some time. And we do have lots of runners, so even if we don't make the recovery we want, the runners should do well. Although some of the runners have gotten bit off. So we'll see. I did give them some extra fertilizer. We had actually been given it. So I just like came through and laid some around each of the ones that have been bitten off of. Although a few of them got bitten off of again. But I'm just going to let this fill up with strawberries. When the peas are done, I'm going to encourage all the runners to go towards the empty area over here and get this strawberry bed nice and full. Everything I had read about these variety of strawberries was that they don't send out a lot of runners, but this plant alone, let's see. Okay, so that one goes to this plant. This plant has 3 started. This plant has a lot. It's my biggest plant though. So this plant has 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just 4. But even these little ones have 2. I planted them closer together because I was like, well, rarely sends out runners. You want them to bush up. Well, they're gonna bush up either way. So then we have the medium patch over here, because that's the kid patch. They're allowed to eat strawberries out of that patch at any time. Does not matter. Patch, I really do need to come back and spend time in. It's been hot enough, especially with the kids, that spending time in the patch has been a little difficult. And the rabbits aren't getting this one either. But like this row, tonight when the sun gets low, I have to come and spend time in this row. So these rows have been taken up by weeds because I don't have anything in them. And it's like, of course, scooching over. Spending a lot more time watering than weeding because that's life right now, unfortunately. So Andrew made me a mound maker, and this wasn't tilled. We don't have a 3-point tiller. So this was just disked a lot. And then we built rows, and we have jewel plants that we need planted. Plan on planting them in 90-degree weather. So we're hoping that they'll be okay. Because you can plant them in June and pick the flowers, of course, and usually get a decent start on them, even though you'd prefer to plant them earlier in spring. But oh man, it's just been way too hot. And the start of the orchard is a little rough. Our cherry trees have nothing on them. So they were a little green, and I think it really just went from cold to hot way too fast. This guy has some leaves. I'm gonna have to bring out the truck to water it, but I mean, it's nice and flexible. They're all flexible, but the cherries, I think I'm just gonna have to contact the company. And unfortunate, I need to come out and weed again around them. But these seem to be doing okay. Raspberries, yellow raspberries, also kind of the same deal. And it's honestly just, sometimes you just can't, right? I couldn't predict 90-degree weather at this early. It's not normally like this. Typically June mornings are pretty chilly. And it just went from almost freezing to really, really hot so fast. But our pear trees, well, this pear tree, it's apple russet. It's got some pears on it. We lost all the pears on it last year, which granted, I don't know if it should have been producing last year. But it looks like it's got a few little pears that'll pop up. This one had 7 blossoms. We think it's just a big old tree now, and we're gonna leave it because it's pretty. And a nice shade tree. I'd like to put a bench on the other side. We'll trim off this dead stuff here soon, but we would like to put a bench underneath of it. So when people are kind of like hanging out in the garden, like my husband's grandparents, or like a church meeting or something, we'd like to have like a picnic table or a bench over here to do those type of visitations in the garden. Thanks for being with us today. I know it's hot and gardening sometimes at this temperature kind of sucks, but it is worth it. So drink plenty of water. I'm praying for you. If you like this video, let me know. If you have a favorite variety of tomato, put it in the comments, and share this with somebody if you think they'd enjoy it. Thanks for being with us today. God bless.